You are mostly bootstrapped. I think you raised a little bit of money, didn't you? But
Yeah, in 2018 we had the 15 angel investors,
yeah,
and they've been great. But I would say, given now it's kind of 5-6 years, we've been primarily bootstrapping,
yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
paying the bill with our customer money, which I think is a healthy thing to do for a business.
I'm fully bootstrapped myself. It's,
Yeah,
it's a nice feeling owning 100% of
yeah,
something, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
But some people, they can't do that because of what they're trying to build. It's a different
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
business.
yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about, I guess, the difference between bootstrapping and raising, because you've kind of been from both sides of the table to a
Yeah,
degree,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
You know, everyone thinks they need to raise a lot of
Yeah,
money. Like
yeah,
everyone's like, oh yeah, I'd love to build this business. I just need this capital to begin with.
yeah,
They've seen too much Dragon's Den or something. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like Shark Tank, it's like polluted entrepreneurship to some degree,
Yeah.
in that everyone's got this unrealistic view of how to start something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We started it with no money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, I guess, bootstrapping versus VC.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously VCs, it's like marketing firm, right? They market like the fact that you need to raise to build a business. And you're right, the culture also, you read TechCrunch, you watch Dragon's Den, it's all glorifying the investment,
Yeah.
and it's a very high five moment, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
we got money in the business, great, big idea. And it's also quite sexy because often when you raise, you have to raise on a big idea. You have to raise on something that's quite appealing. And we tried that. Yeah, it wasn't hugely successful. We did get Angel on board, which I think is a good way to start, by the way,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
angels, they might look more at the person rather than, I mean, if the person in the area, and they might not, look too much into other fundamentals. I mean, there's not too much to look into in the early days, but that's basically why they backed, me and my co-founder, me kind of the business guy, my co-founder, the technical guy, subscription being a big space.
Yeah.
And then we got started. I think VC are probably, they have their thesis and they're going to look more in depth at metrics, which you don't have many again. But I think at the end of the day, I think what we were ensuring in the beginning, which is why we haven't really gone the VC route, is we were ensuring it was a $1 billion business. Basically,
Sure.
We thought we're operating in a niche. It's a
Yeah.
great niche. There's a really nice business to build here, but we're not sure that we can get to 1 billion. And maybe another person than me, might have thought, yeah, we're definitely going to get to 1 billion. But,
Yeah.
the person that I am, I'm someone who kind of needs to prove something before I say it. And I just thought, I'm not sure of that, so I'm not going to say it. So
Yeah.
I always felt a bit more comfortable with the bootstrap because then you get to incrementally prove things. And then now, actually, we're at a point where, actually, I do think there might be a shot at $1 billion business, but that's another topic. But so then we went down primarily bootstrapped. After, I'd say 2020, it was basically a bootstrap startup. And I guess the way we made it work, which I don't know if it works for everyone because we were in the enterprise space, is we basically tagged on implementation services. So professional services to or license fee or kind of SaaS annual recurring fee. And that's a very unpopular thing to do, for example, with VCs. You talk to VC, they say, no, that's low margin work. Don't do that. But if we didn't do that work, we wouldn't be in business, or we wouldn't have managed to even build or product because, we needed a way to pay the bill. And initially, for a lot of big companies, it's quite hard to say, well, I'm going to pay you a big license fee for something that's very theoretical. Whereas with professional services, they're more used to, well, yeah, I've got hundreds of consultants in my business already, so a bit more consulting here will be fine. So that's what paid a lot of the bills in the early days, and that's what helped us to bootstrap. And then you have to wean yourself off that because else you become an agency, and that's fine if you want to build an agency, but if you're trying to build a product, you need to switch gear and
Completely
then
different.
focus on the licensing or the kind of product side. So for us in the bootstrap journey, that's what's worked. But I think I mean, I've never been really, I'm not being ideological around bootstrap. It's not like I go on podcasts and evangelize the fact that you should bootstrap.
A lot of people do.
It's just one way of building a business. And
Yeah,
frankly,
yeah.
you should keep your option open because, there's tons of business that have bootstrapped a very long time and then raised a ton of money and became huge.
Yeah.
It just matters. I think it's hard because, you can't fantasize too much, but you need to think, well, what could this business be in the future? Am I operating in a niche and that niche is always going to be capped? Or am I operating in something that's really big, that's totally uncapped, and that there's a big opportunity to seize? And if you think the latter, then actually getting funding is worth looking at.
Yeah.
And these things will change, right? You could be a bootstrap startup for 6 years like us, and then at some point you unlock a new industry, you unlock a new kind of, or something change in the environment.
Or V1, then iterate,
Yeah, exactly. And then you can be like, wait, actually getting funding makes sense. For example, for us, we're getting into software where there's a ton of subscription. We've historically been in media. And software is huge and fast growth. That's been something that for us is that's exciting and that can change the calculus. And there can be things that happen around you also that's interesting. Like, for example, the app stores, right now a lot of subscriptions happen on the app stores, but there's all these EU ruling that actually you should allow to process payment outside the app stores. Well, if that does happen, then that's really
coming.
interesting for a business.
Yeah,
so, there can be things that happen. And if tomorrow there's that rule and everyone start doing it, then, we could make a pitch of saying, well, we've got everything set up to make that happen. So, you just got to keep your eyes open and just reevaluate. I'm definitely not ideological about the bootstrap. It's kind of born out of necessity. It does suit kind of my temperament as a founder, but it's also not something that I idolize and think that that's the only way to build a business or that it's even the best way to build a business. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve.
The only thing I really like about bootstrapping is that it removes the excuse in people's mind as to why they can't start something.
Yeah.
Because even if you are going to raise money, just build something basic
Just get started.
that you can show investors and you can go, look, I've already started. It's way better than going, hey, I've got this really nice PowerPoint presentation. It's just like, it shows that you really, really care if you're willing to build something, however basic.
Yeah. And actually that makes me think one thing I really realized is when you talk to users, your confidence go up. Like you're more confident in your business. You start thinking about the problem, how to solve it, how you're going to make money from solving that problem. You get a lot of confidence from talking to customers, and I really enjoy it. When you talk to investor, it's the total opposite. It's completely gutting. Like you lose confidence in your idea. You lose confidence in your business because they ask so many questions. There's so many theoretical, and it's really hard to do the two at the same time, which when you raise, you usually have to keep talking to your user, grow the business while talking to founder. And so that's really hard. And talking to users is also, you go in the detail, you go deep into like the specific of their problem and how your feature is going to address it. When you talk to investor, you have to think big picture, what is the big opportunity out there? And that's also really hard to just kind of shift context from like really detailed conversation to like really kind of high level, big picture. And I found when we were raising, I found shifting between the two really difficult. Maybe I should have, arranged my calendar so I'd like, investor day versus customer day, which I probably would do in the future because I find shifting between the two, you get off a call with like a production issue with a customer and the next minute you gotta talk about like how your business could be huge. It's kind of hard to like with Zoom call back to back to just shift into another gear. And you do need to shift because if you're kind of obsessing about the problems that you're trying to solve and you talk to investors, they don't like it.
No,
it's not why they're going to invest.
They want to see the vision, the ultimate goal, the exit. Yeah.